Trying to make a basic crud application for creating, updating, reading, and deleting pizzas. So let's start off by going to our models. So let's create class pizza. Now this is going to inherit from models.model. So what are some things that we want our pizzas to have? But that's not like that's not a generalized attribute, right? Okay, we could say something about crust. So then I could say models dot car field max length equals 45. Okay, size equals models dot. Let's make that an integer field. Like in terms of like how big the radius of the pizza is in inches, right? That's fine. And then let's just have like the price. Let's say float field. And I don't need any reference to the many-to-many relationship right now, right? We're just worried about creating pizzas. So I think this is good enough to go. And what's our next step? Right, make migrations, right? So Python manage.py. I am recording this. Cool. So that is the migration. So I did want to talk a little bit about what migrations do. So when I say make migrations, it creates this file, right? And this file just describes what's changed in the database since the last time I migrated. So because it's the first time, it says initial, right? So if by any weird chance you wanted to just completely delete your database and all of your migrations, you could delete the db.sqlite3 and all files in the migrations folder, and that should start it from scratch, but that's kind of like a nuclear option, okay? But because we haven't done anything like that, I can just say migrate, and then we're going to get all this stuff in here. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to be very, very explicit about the 7 RESTful routes. So what is the index do? What is the responsibility of the index route? What does it load? Does it load anything from the database? No. I think it does, right? Sorry, I named it kind of deceivingly. Yeah, so if this URL is pizzas and I go to views.index, then no network detected. Weird. In the index, right, the index route is responsible for displaying all pizzas. So we need to make a query here, right? So what's the query going to look like? Yeah, right? Somewhere we're going to say pizza.objects.all, and then we're going to save that inside of a variable. So we'll call this all pizzas equals this, right? And then it's return a render of request and index, pizza app / index.html. Let's pass this into context. So we'll say something like context equals pizzas, all pizzas. And we'll pass context in like so. Okay? Let's go and create the template really quick. So in here, let's create index.html. Do you guys remember what the template for this might look like? Do I need like any sort of special data structure? I mean, not data structure, but like a loop or something like that? I do need a loop, right? Exactly. Okay. And let's just have like a basic table with a tr that describes the different properties. So we had name. Wait, did we have a name? We didn't even have a name. Wow. We have crust, size, and price. All right. So I'll say crust, size, and price. And right here, let's wrap this for loop around the rest of the TRs. And let's say pizza.crust. Oops. Get out of here, linters. All right, size and price. Cool. Wow, that's a lot, right? I went pretty fast. Does anybody need any does anybody have any questions about what I've done so far? All right. So I'm going to hazard a guess and say when I go to /pizzas, I'm going to get thrown an error. Let's see what this error says. Name pizza is not defined. Why is this happening? I need to import my model, right? So this is a pretty important step. From dot models import pizza. Okay? Cool. It's a little bare bones. Let me just add like a header. These are all pizzas. Okay. So now that we've gotten to like the ground level, I want to render a form to create a new pizza. What is the route for that link? We just went over it, guys. What was the route that we had? What did it end in? It ended in the word new. Okay? So when I've done this, what's the first file I need to talk to? Not yet. We should talk to URLs first. Does anybody know what we call this method? It's new. Okay. All right. Let's define our new function. Do I need to make a query here? No, right? All we need to do is return a render of the template to show this form. Okay, so let's go to the pizza app. Let's create new.html. Let's just put in some blank HTML, create a form. All right. Let's start off by wondering, okay, when I want to create a new pizza, what is the route I'm going to go to, and what type of request am I making? It's a post request. Good. Everybody got that, which is really good. Where am I making this request to? Or where should I make it to make it RESTful? You could make it create. I think the more RESTful way would just be to say /pizzas, right? Create is going to be the name of the view function that I use for this. So very, very close. Cool. We have an input. We'll say crust. We'll say name equals crust. Okay. What are the two other fields on my model? They are size and price. So this one should be number. This one will be size, right? So it's a input type of number, so I could get that little arrow to click it, and it'll come to the database and the server in the form of an actual integer. So size in size radius in inches. Okay. And then here, oh my god, I already forgot price, right? So here, I'll just keep it as a text. We've done a lot. So if I click here, boom, there's our form. Huh. Cool. So we've now done the first part of getting a new pizza in our database. So let's talk about the second part. So what's the first file I should talk to? URLs, thank you. You're going to notice a pattern here. When I create a new route, the first thing I always reference is URLs. Now here, this is actually a very interesting thing. I already have a route for pizzas, right? So this is where we're going to kind of, I guess, diverge from the purely RESTful way. And I'll actually do what Jason suggested and make it pizza/create. Okay? Just to make sure that it's super, super obvious that we're doing different methods. Okay, so let's say def create request. All right. Do I need to query the database here? Do I need to query the database inside of this route? What am I trying to do here? Yeah. I don't need to store it in session. I'm using the database for that stuff now. Right. So we do need to make a query. Okay? What do I do at the end of this route? Cool. Let's go back to pizzas. All right. So we're going to make a query here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say pizza.objects.create, and let's list off some key value pairs. First, we'll have the crust. Now, where is that going to come from? All right. Price equals request.post price, right? And what's the last part? Size equals request.post size. Does that look correct to you guys? That doesn't matter. But I do think you are correct. Yes. But it doesn't matter. And here, what I'll do is I will kind of do this to make it a little more easy to read. Okay? All right, let's see if this works. So what kind of crust do you guys want? I'll say, I'm in Chicago, right? So I have to say deep dish. Let's say it's like a 14 radius pizza, and the price I'll say is like, I don't even know what's on it. I'll just say it's $8.99. All right? Name redirect is not defined. I love that. All right? Let's go back, and let's create a different pizza. Let's say this is thin crust, and it's really crappy, so it's like $4. So we got both items in the database. So we have what? We have create done. We have read done, right? So let's do getting a specific pizza. Now, how am I going to write the code so that my web app can get a specific pizza? Well, let's take a look at, like, I don't know, Amazon, right? How do they do it? How do I get to see a specific product's information? I click on the freaking product, right? So let's do that right here. We're going to transform it into a link, this name, okay? Before I go any further, do you guys remember what the route was so that we could get a specific item from the pizzas list, or from, I guess it was posts for you guys? Do you guys remember what that route looked like? Right, we had a slash ID there, right? So here we're going to have pizzas, slash, and then how are we going to pass the ID in? Yeah, this crazy regex thing. Did I write that correctly? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. $. Let's double check. So let's see. Django routes, route parameters. Let's take a look at the documentation. That is for 2.0. So let's talk about 1.10. Question mark P, the thing, slash, and then in this case it'd be D plus, because that's any number of digits. Yeah, looks like I did it. Cool. What's the name of this route? It's typically called show. Okay? All right, let's define our show function. Okay, I'm going to stop typing until you guys can answer these questions, all right? Do I need a template?
Yes.
Okay. Do I need to make a query to the database?
Yes.
Okay. Then what do I do at the end of this route? I render. Cool. Glad we could get that out of the way. So, make sure that when you're getting anything with a special parameter in the route itself, so right here, this name, pizza ID, when I capture it in Django, I also need to pass it as an additional parameter into the view function. Okay? So if you don't do one or the other, you're going to get thrown an error. Now, you guys might have noticed that on the little pieces of paper that you're looking at, right? Cool. So let's say the pizza equals, what kind of request are we going to make? Okay. And then it's going to be like ID equals pizza ID, something like that. Nice. Let's create our context object. Okay. Let's return a render of request, and let's say pizza app slash show.html. Okay. Let's put a new file. Oh, thanks. Yeah, totally forgot about that. Okay. So let's put a HTML in this template, and let's say, because we didn't have any names, I guess we're just gonna have to use their IDs, like a bureaucracy, I guess. This is the info for pizza number. All right, how am I gonna access the property here? The dot notation, right? Pizza.id. So here, let's just have some p tags. Let's say size, pizza.size crust. I know I'm getting it completely out of order now. I just haven't bothered to look it up. And then what's the last one? Price. Let's put a dollar sign in front of this one. That's a very good question. So, it depends. Like the rule of thumb is, which model are we currently on? What instance, what class is this variable an instance of? Pizza, right? So if we're already on that class, then we don't need to say pizza underscore ID, right? That's reserved for foreign keys. Which means that if I was on a different class, then I would need to say pizza ID. Okay? Shoot. We've done all this work, right? If I go to /pizzas/1, I'm going to get the info, but I still have no way of getting to it in normal user interaction, right? I can't click the thing and it takes me there. So which file do I need to change? Index. Awesome. Okay, so if I'm going to be able to click, let's say the crust, because that's probably the most unique thing about each pizza, I want to wrap that in an A tag. So what's the href here going to be? Okay, so do I need template tags for that? Like the double curlies? Yeah. Okay, pizza.id like that? Or pizza underscore ID? Why do you say .id? Yeah, exactly, right? And then here the route is looking for a pizzas in the front, so I'll say /pizzas/ that. Okay. So here, you need to remember that when you have these links that take you to different pages that are like specific to something in the database, somewhere in that route, you have to have the ID. There's no other way to get that information to your server, right? The server's not going to magically know that if I clicked on the A tag for that specific pizza, that you meant to open the page for the exact same pizza, right? The server doesn't remember that stuff. You need to tell it what the ID is of the pizza it needs to look up. If you don't have this, that part that I just went over will be impossible, okay? Because now the information is lost. So always keep a reference to the ID. And in general, for the rest of the routes that we're going to create, we need a reference to that ID, always, all right? Cool. So now let's try to do the update. Let's have a little button here that when I click it says, click here to show the form to update this pizza. All right. So let's go to our show.html. Let's put a little A tag. Click here to show the form to update this pizza. So what can we do? This one, we need to say /pizzas. I think it usually goes then the ID. I'll leave that for a second, and I'll go /edit, right? That's what the URL should look like. So let's do this. That's what our regex needs to look like for that. Everybody see what's going on there? So that's where the ID is, that's where edit is. And we'll say views.edit. Okay? Now when I go to here, we have the same problem. The route is expecting a number between pizzas and edit that describes the pizza ID. So right here, how can we give that route the ID it needs? Okay? And then right? It might seem like I'm definitely just like being a broken record, but it's something that is extremely important. Now, let's say you try this code and it doesn't work. Why would that be the case? That could be what happens if I click the button and then it doesn't do it and it crashes. But I'm talking about when it tries to like even load this page and it crashes. Why would that happen? Probably because pizza isn't defined, right? So if the context is missing, or I don't make the query, or whatever, right? Why did I break my server? Oh, the views doesn't have an attribute called edit yet. Sorry. Right? Then it's going to be all broken. And when I click this, it's going to throw me an error. Right? So if you see just this blank space where the ID is supposed to be, that probably means you're not in the right place to grab an instance of that pizza or that particular object. So that means you should go one step back and make sure that your context is correct. All right, so let's go back. Let's talk about this views thing. So, second verse same as the first. Do I need to render a template here? Yes or no? Yes. Why? Exactly. Okay. Do I need to make a query here? People who said yes, why?
Changing a specific pizza, right?
Yes.
So you need to identify that.
I need to identify that pizza, and I also need to grab the information about that pizza so the user doesn't have a blank form that they have to like suddenly remember what the previous version of their pizza looked like, right? Any sane website, when you edit something, shows the information of that item when the form is given to you, right? So okay, cool. What kind of request should we make? I mean, query.
Pizza address, then get ID.
Alrighty, nice. Okay. In fact, we can copy a lot of the logic here, but let's say pizza to edit, just so it looks a little different. All right. Which means I need to pass this into my context. Alrighty. And then let's create edit.html real quick. All right. So I'm going to do a little bit of copy paste. I'm going to copy the new form into my edit form. And I wanted to highlight what we need to change if we do something similar in your day-to-day assignments. So what do we need to change here? The route. Okay. So what's the first thing that comes after pizzas? Well, we don't know yet, right? So let's create that route real quick. Something like that. So if that's the route we're looking against, then what do I need here first? Okay. So I called it something different here, right? I called it pizza to edit.id. All right. What else do we need to change? Right. So in order to actually give that information filled out on the form, we need to hard code some initial values. So here, let's just do that. and I'll say pizza to edit dot, and then here it will be crust, it will be size, and it will be price. Okay. No, what have I done? I always get one step ahead of myself. So in the views, I just need a def update, request pizza ID, and pass. Okay. Hey, there we go. All right. So when I submit this, let's say I wanted to get a slightly smaller pizza. We're going to go to the URLs here to this route, correct? So we're almost done with our RESTful routes. Now, how are we going to approach that problem? So let's talk about update. Do I need a template here?
No.
Okay. Why not?
Because you're just updating the database that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
No,
need
no,
more.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all good. Okay. Do I need to make a query here?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Okay. So what's that query going to look like? Well, first we got to find that instance of the pizza. So we'll say pizza equals pizza.objects.get ID equals pizza underscore ID. All right. Now we can say pizza.size equals, we're going to get that information, request.post, correct? Thank you. Always forget. And then, do I need to save after this?
Yes.
All right. Just do that for now. All right, let's see if that'll go. Boom, I updated it. Hooray. I can make this pizza really expensive. Boom. All right. Let's make sure that this is here, and I have some actual correct units of measurement. Okay. All right, so that's basic CRUD, and then now we just need to do the delete. Okay, and this is taking a little longer than I expected, so maybe I'll leave the many-to-many part for a little later. Does that sound fair to you guys? All right. So when I delete an item, there's a few ways I can do it. Let's have it done in a way that maybe one of your assignments might want to do it. So let's take a look at semi-restful users. Semi-restful users. Cool. So what they do is they just have the delete right next to the actual item. So what I'll do here is I'll do the same. I'll say td action td, and I'll have a tag with an href. Let's say delete. Okay. So yeah. What should the route for this look like? Well, for sure we need the ID. And we'll say something like this. Like that. /delete. Okay? Doesn't have to be this way, but it's just going to be what I go with for now. Now let's go over and define delete. And how does that delete query look like? Oh, I just spoiled it. Yes, we need to make a query. Do I render a template in this function?
No.
No. Okay, cool. I think the way they do it in the example is they say id equals pizza underscore id dot delete, and then return a redirect to slash pizzas. Okay. Hooray! So let's create another pizza. Let's just call it, I don't know, then 90 and then $15. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Anyways, that's kind of it for the whole RESTful routing stuff. Because delete is not a method that exists on instances of pizzas. They only exist on this data type called query sets. So when you do a filter, remember how I said there's a difference between filter and get, and how filter returns you like a collection of objects? The name that Django gives that collection of objects is called a query set, and basically delete only exists on that data type and not on the object. Okay?
If you like assigned this pizza equals pizza.objects.get, and then you did pizza delete, does that work? Because I feel like that's how I did it on my RESTful routes, and it worked okay.
Let's try it, because I might be completely wrong. Let's try it. It's not the first time today. So let's just create a wait, it's a crust. Pretzel crust. I don't know. Okay. Hey, it still worked. There you go. Huh. Then I don't know why they said filter instead of get. Doesn't make any sense to me. Why would it?
Yeah, my question was just like an extra step.
Because I do like this way better, actually. Huh. Well, there we go. Strike two. My bad, guys. It's Friday.
Is it a different version thing or no?
I'm not even going to try to open myself up for strike three. I'm just going to leave it at you can definitely do it both ways, and that's that. Okay? Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's talk about, like, I went over a lot, right? And I went through this fairly quickly because I recorded it and I had no expectation of people following along. But let's just think about what we can do to sort of break this big problem into smaller problems, right? I didn't just instantly, as soon as I opened this blank screen, knew, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z all the way down to the end of it, right? The purpose of these kind of things is to talk about how we break down this big problem into smaller problems. So the first smaller problem that I always like to fix and figure out is I need to add items to my database and show everything. So the C and the R, right, I always handle that first because not only are they the easiest to write, but they're the most visually, it's the biggest visual difference that you can have. Right? Either something's there or it's not. Either it's posting or it's not. After that, I like to think about, how I can show an individual thing, right? Because that's going to be something that every web app that you guys create is going to require of you. So I always do it that way. So I always start, creating, then I finish the reading, and then if I have to, not all assignments will force you to create update and delete functionalities, but that's when I start thinking about update and delete, okay? Now for those individual functions, the way I break those down into smaller problems is exactly what we did in the activity. Do I need to render a template? Do I need to make queries? What does the template look like? Those are the three questions I always ask myself, okay? And if you just get used to breaking down these big problems into smaller problems, the easier it will get, right? The person who helped me learn coding web development, he said, you can't eat a whole elephant all at once, You have to just take a bite of it, right? A bite at a time. Okay? I don't know. It's some stupid idiom. I don't get it either. It just made sense to me when I was stressing. All right. That is it.